Hello, happy Tuesday. Welcome or welcome back. Let's talk spring book recommendations. So I don't know what you guys think about when you think about spring books, but for me, it feels like I need something that's going to bring me out of the winter depression. I want themes of hope, love, resilience. And so the books that I am bringing to you today kind of all theme around that. Not a lot of them actually have anything to do with actual plants. I think there's one book on the list that I have that does have to do with an actual plant, but for the most part, these are just themes of things that bring you back, renewal and joy. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So my first suggestion would be, if you haven't picked it up already, one of my favorite books ever, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. The whole point of this story is resilience. Addie LaRue is a girl who, on her wedding day, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, this book spans hundreds of years, she doesn't want to get married. She's kind of being forced into it in a small town in France, and she runs away and she prays to the wrong gods, the gods that come out after the sun goes down. And so she gets her wish granted by someone who doesn't necessarily have her best interests in mind, and her wish to not be tied down in one place causes everyone to forget her. And so for hundreds of years, she grows and she learns and she survives, and she kind of figures out what it means to leave an imprint on the world. This is not a new book, but this is a very, very popular V.E. Schwab book. I've loved lots and lots of her books, so I wouldn't be too picky myself, but specifically for themes of hope and resilience and just strength of mind and strength of character coming out of a dark time, I would say The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue really fits that spring vibe. Following along that theme of resilience and lost and then found, magic, and just absolute whimsy and fantasy, I would jump into The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. This version is just lovely, absolutely beautiful art. But The Ocean at the End of the Lane is about a man who doesn't really remember his past, and he doesn't really realize it until it starts to come back. There's magic, there is that feeling of lost and then found, family, there's the people you choose to be around, hope. And so this is another one of my favorite books. And did I mention spring is one of my favorite seasons? And I think it is that hope that life is coming back. So my second suggestion, another adult fantasy sort of book, very different from The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, but it will leave you feeling like you've gone through a journey. Next, we're going to get into some classics. So here I have a stack of books for some classic suggestions. Obviously, if we're doing a video about books for spring, we can't get into it without mentioning The Secret Garden. I feel like parts of this book didn't age all the greatest, but the story overall and the imagery of the garden itself is just an absolutely fantastic read. A young girl finds a garden that's been in disuse and abandoned for years and years, and she puts in the work and she puts in the magic to help it grow back. And I think that in general, there's a lot of themes in this book that reflect new growth, magic, and hope, even more so than just the fact that it's about a garden. My next classic recommendation for spring would be Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This one is a HarperCollins Seasons edition. It's funny, this was part of the winter collection. But for whatever reason, when I think of almost any Jane Austen book, I kind of think of spring. I feel like Pride and Prejudice was one of my favorites just because it has that strength of character in it. When Elizabeth Bennet goes through everything that she goes through, she just shows how amazing it is to hold hope in your heart and to hold fast to who you are, to not give in to the different things that society would like or thinks would be best for you. And so this book, this version specifically, brings me to spring just by looking at it. The language is slightly flowery, everything is very delicate, and that type of writing style really speaks to me in the springtime. A lot of the times I'm feeling more of a mystery, I'm feeling more of a quick romance, I'm feeling more of a big fantasy like what I read a month ago. And in the spring, I do tend towards really deep books like Addie LaRue and The Ocean at the End of the Lane that make me feel deeply, or I tend towards older books that have that very specific language. And if you've read a lot of classics, you know what I'm talking about. How everything is written feels different. Moving right along, my next recommendation actually probably fits in more with Addie LaRue, but I had it in the wrong order, in the wrong pile. A lot of my next couple of books actually don't have covers on them. It's kind of my bookshelf look right now. But so my next recommendation is Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. And I've read this book 2 or 3 times, I think now. It's about our main character who dies right at the beginning. And to be honest, he's not the greatest guy. He's kind of a jerk. And so when he dies, he gets picked up by the Reaper and he gets brought to the tea house and a ferryman. And this book is about his journey of self-discovery, growth, finding who you truly are despite your life ending. Because he does. He dies right at the beginning. And there's a whole book after that. And he goes through a journey post-death that not changes who he is, but really brings out who he should have been in life. And it really settles kind of deep into your bones that even in life, things don't just end. I think this brings me to spring because when winter hits, even in Florida, you don't want to go do anything. You don't want to be outside to play. Like, I have a 3-year-old. I don't want to be outside to play. I feel myself being very stuck. And I feel like that's how the main character is in the beginning of this book. And spring to me means moving again, starting over, bringing joy and freshness. And there's a part in this book that I can remember that says something about if he was really living before he died. And this character was doing things because they looked right. And the question became, were you even truly living? And I feel like that in itself screams the transformation to spring for me. It really is an amazing transformative book. And no matter when you read it, I recommend reading this book. Moving right along, we're going to jump into some middle grades, but not all the middle grades are whimsical middle grades, which I have some of those in mind too. I did not include them in this list because I happen to be in a very introspective mood. If you do want a list of more whimsical middle grades for spring, I'm happy to put something like that together. But I'm going to start with Some Kind of Happiness by Claire Legrand. And this book made me cry. Talk about growth and self-discovery and transformation and imagination and magic in the sense that we're talking about a child's imagination and just like strength of character and discovering who you are. I feel like middle grades in general are just the place to find hope for who you can become. There's so many opportunities for growth. There's so many opportunities to change your path or not to change your path. This book specifically, she doesn't fit in with her extended family. And yet, after going through a lot, she figures out that that's a strength of hers. It's about connecting with family that you want to connect with. And it's very real. It hit very deep for me. Some Kind of Happiness. Few left. Next, I believe this is a middle grade. I could be wrong. I don't believe the whole series is a middle grade. But the first book in this series is called Every Heart a Doorway. And this one is about kids who have gone through some kind of a portal, a doorway, into these different magical worlds that suit them perfectly. And then they come back and then they feel lost because they don't fit in this world. And so they go to a school and all of these different children come together and they all have different experiences and stories and adventures. This one specifically has a mystery in it, so there is a little mystery element. They're very, very short. So they're super quick to get through, but they're just magical. They're whimsical. They're very much about found family and hope and discovering who you are and becoming your truest self. Next, Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. Howl's Moving Castle is about a girl named Sophie who accidentally places a spell on herself to make her old. Everyone thinks that she's just kind of the oldest child and she should just be that. And she takes it on so much internally that it becomes an external thing and she places this spell on herself. And then she meets Howl in his moving castle and she goes on an adventure and she discovers who she is. And it's very magical, very whimsical. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. There's a lot of really fun characters and the theme of hope, love for yourself, of growth through adventure and through experiences carries through to this book as well. So Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones would be my next recommendation. Finally, The Simple Wild. And The Simple Wild is not set in spring, it's set in Alaska, but I felt like it had this feeling of new beginnings and similar to Under the Whispering Door in the sense that, are you truly living if you're just doing things that feel like what you should be doing? Not that the woman changes, but more that can you live life more fully? And so basically the story in The Simple Wild is that this girl's father, who she barely knows, is dying from cancer. And she goes to see him when she finds out that he is sick and they reconnect. And she meets this grumpy Alaskan pilot who thinks that she's super simple-minded and that she's very materialistic, when the truth is that she's got a lot more to her. I'm gonna close this out before before I start rambling even more. Those are my recommendations for books for spring, and really my recommendations for books that have themes of hope, growth, beginnings, love, loving yourself, resilience, being born again, and coming back from something really, really hard. And that's kind of what I relate back to spring. If you have any recommendations of your own, I would love to hear them. I'm not moving through books as fast as I used to these days, but I am still reading, and I would love to see any recommendations that you guys have. We would love to bring in all the spring vibes. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you next time. Bye!